what do you remember about September 11th?
I was in 7th grade, and I walked into my first period homeroom, and that's when we had Channel 1 News. And I walked in, and Channel 1 wasn't on, but the TV was on, and I thought that was weird, and it was really fuzzy screen, and everybody was just kind of being really quiet, and I didn't know what was going on, and my teacher, Miss Filling, was just telling us that there had been a terrorist attack on the Twin Towers, but she didn't say in New York City, and because it was a fuzzy screen, I thought to myself it must have been in a different country, because obviously we have pretty good technology in America, and so I was like, there's no way that's from here. And I had never heard of the Twin Towers before, and so I was just sitting there being quiet like everybody else, but not really fully grasping what was happening. And after the news went off, they showed the plane crashing into the towers, and then after the news turned off, we spent the whole period just kind of talking about what was going on, and she explained to us who Osama bin Laden was, who Al-Qaeda was, where the Twin Towers were, what this meant for our country, what it meant to the people whose families worked in the towers or around that area, the possible damage that could have happened. And it started to sink in then that this was really big, and she compared it to our generation's version of Pearl Harbor, just being attacked on our own soil, and how it would, she said to us that it would be something that we would remember for the rest of our lives. And so then that day we had to write a paper. After she kind of explained everything, we wrote a paper about what we knew before about it and what we knew after leaving the class, and like the feelings that we had towards the entire event. And I remember like I was cleaning out like all my papers and stuff after high school, and I still had that one paper, and I read it, and it still made me cry, because just like the innocence of being 12 years old and not really understanding. So and then that day I think that it was an early day maybe, or they let us leave early, I'm not sure, but we got home and both of my parents were home from work already, and they were watching the news, and my mom was just crying. And I just remember thinking, it's weird that this is affecting us, because we don't know these people, and we don't know, you know, but my mom's sitting here crying as if she had known the people that it happened to. And then the newspaper had it all over the front page, and I thought to myself, that's crazy that they had to have changed the front story at 8 o'clock or right after it happened. And so, yeah, I just remember like it was just a total shock, and watching it with my mom on the internet later that night, like the full footage and not on a fuzzy screen, and seeing, you know, the dust falling and people running so fast and the debris being so close after them, and just like slideshows of pictures and stuff, and just realizing how devastating it really was to the people of New York.
What do you remember feeling? Were you confused or scared, or what kinds of feelings did you have?
At first I was just really confused. I didn't obviously understand how big of a deal it was, or what it would mean for me in my life. You know, how much it's changed how we have to live now when it comes to going to the airport. My mom works for an airline, and so we travel a lot, and just kind of what a hassle it is now, all of the security you have to go through. And while it's necessary, it still kind of sucks that that's what it's come down to, that we have to arrive so much earlier and go through body scans and pat downs, and you can't take liquids on planes anymore, and just all of the things that have changed in order to protect anyone who flies.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of confused as a little kid, but as I've grown up, I've been able to see I've lost a lot, like, people in my life, and so just knowing what it feels like to have somebody taken from you wrongfully, it just, you know, you try to understand, but there's no reasoning for it, and so it kind of hurts even more.
Yeah, for sure. With the changes at the airport, have you felt like those were good things to keep you safe, or that they're kind of invasive of your privacy, or maybe a combination of both? How have you felt about that?
I know a lot of people feel really invaded that they have to, like, the new body scans can see, like, your naked body, and or, like, the pat-downs, there's been problems with that, but, I mean, if it's going to protect me, and I have to go through that same search, then I'm okay with it, because when something tragic like this happens, you have to take the necessary precautions the next time to prevent it from happening again. So, I mean, I can see where people are coming from when they think that it's a little invasive or it's annoying, but I mean, would you rather do that or have another episode or event like that happen again? So, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I figured that people that are looking at those screens see naked bodies all day, so it's not like for their enjoyment or anything, so it doesn't bother me.
What do you think about the wars that we've gotten involved in since then in Iraq and Afghanistan? Have those been things that you've thought about a lot or felt concerned about? Or
Yeah. I mean, I know people whose husbands go and fight, and brothers and fathers, and, so it's always a scary thing to send somebody you love off to such a scary situation where you don't know what's going on, you don't know who's over there. Any day could lead to a tragedy in your family, your personal life, and so I feel for them. I don't know anybody, like, nobody in my family is in the military or armed forces, and so, but I feel for them because I know how scary that can be. You never know if you're going to see them again every time they leave for a tour in Iraq or in Afghanistan. I don't know if they're completely 100% necessary, but I feel like President Bush did exactly what he felt he had to do given the circumstances he was under, being a new president and having this huge thing happen when you're brand new, and doing what he felt right. And I respect him for that, even if I don't 100% agree with every move he's made, that he's always stuck to what he believed was right for our country at the time. And I mean, he's been under fire for that for a lot of years, but I think that now under Obama's administration, they've kind of are completing what the whole purpose of going over there was, and they're kind of winding it down. And when they killed Osama bin Laden, it was like a big win for our country, and that's one less person you have to worry about. Of course, there's still other things, but it's nice to know that that threat isn't there anymore from that one person who seemed to have so much power over so many lives.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that you've had people in your life who've been, have you had people who've died of natural causes, or people who you felt like were really taken, like, in a way? Is that something you're willing to talk about? Or?
So, not necessarily taken in the same way that somebody was taken in 9/11. They weren't purposefully targeted. But when I was 8 years old, 3 of my very close cousins died in a car crash. And so just dealing with that emotionally, and why did that have to happen to them? Why were they the car that got hit? Why was it their tire that blew? And just the effects that has had on my family, it's had just effects over my whole life on how my family dynamic works and how we relate to one another, because you never know if today's going to be your last day, and so we kind of have a closer relationship, and I think it's because of that. And then just people that I know, a little boy that was really close to my family was killed by a drunk driver, and so just that feeling of knowing that they still had so much life left, and if that event hadn't happened, what they could have done, or what your relationship with them would be like, and it just hurts to know that you'll never have that opportunity.
Sure. How do you think 9/11 happening, do you feel like that shaped in any way your view of the world as you were kind of coming of age? It happened right when you're 12, right before you're going into your teenage years and becoming an adult.
Yeah, when I was in 10th grade, I had the opportunity through my dance company to go to New York, and we went there for a dance company trip. We took dance classes and went and saw all the touristy things in New York. And on, I think the first day that we were there, we went to Ground Zero, and it kind of just made me realize like how devastating it was seeing that big hole in the ground, and seeing how tall these towers used to be and what was left of them after this happened. And And so I think that was kind of a reminder for me, and being able to physically see it, and the wall with all of the names of the people who were lost, and just it didn't seem so distant anymore. And so it made me realize how devastating it was, how many lives were lost, how many people were affected, because if one person passes away from something like this, how many people does that one person affect? So when you have a wall of thousands of names on it, then you can only imagine how many people were affected by that. And just from experiencing people passing away in my own family, I think it helped me to see that sticking together, and right after the 9/11 happened, we had like this instant unification of the United States, and everyone was so patriotic. And my mom has a sticker on her car that she put up the day after an American flag, and it's still on there today, and it's almost been 10 years. So, I mean, every time I see that, I remember just what happened and how people felt about it. And so I think that pride that I have in America probably wouldn't be so strong, or feeling that connected to the U.S. wouldn't be so strong had this not happened. It just made me realize how important the military is, how important the government is in everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it also made you more appreciative of the life that you have?
Right. And just knowing that in other countries that happens all the time, there's suicide bombers, and it's a lot more dangerous in other countries. And so knowing that it happened here is scary. And knowing, I remember when I was little, I would think, like, anytime I was in a crowded place, like if I went to the Energy Solutions Arena, or like at the Huntsman Center for like a sporting event, just like, this is scary because there's a lot of people here. So if somebody wanted to target, you could hit a lot of people at once, or anything like that. So,
do you think that was while you were still in the 7th grade that you would think that? Or
just like, even sometimes now I'll think that, just because like other things have happened, like the shooting at Charlie Square, or just thinking when you're in a big place that there are people out there who do have evil agendas, and it just made me realize that it's not as safe as I probably thought it was when I was in 7th grade. And so it makes me appreciative of the measures that the government takes to protect us, the measurements that the armed forces take to protect us, and knowing that a lot of other people in other countries don't have those same liberties and rights as citizens. And so, yeah, it makes me feel very grateful that I live here.
Yeah. And that essay you wrote in 7th grade, do you still have that? Mm-hmm. Could I see it? Could you like
email it to you?
Email it?
Yeah, or scan it in.
It?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to see that. That would be fun. You were in the same class with Joyce?
I don't think we were in the same class, but we went to the same school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you waiting for the bus together when you heard the news?
I didn't take the bus. I think, my mom drove me, but, I didn't hear the news.
Okay.
At the bus stop.
Do you remember talking to her about it then?
No. Me and Joyce have been friends, but we didn't have any of the same classes together. So I remember, like, my friend that lived right next door to me, I went over to her house when I got home after, like, seeing the newspaper and seeing my mom and just being like, this is so crazy. And she was a little bit older than me, so she, like, she knew more than I did. And so she would, this is what's going on, and this is what my mom explained to me, and this is how I understand it. And so